Hello everyone, welcome to this quick video where I'm going to show you how to build a house or just any kind of structure in The Sims 3 into the terrain like what you're seeing right here. So as you can see, I built this cube and I have it kind of going into the terrain. Right now I'm just in the terrain paint mode, so you don't have the grid and everything, so you can kind of just see what this looks like. And I have this very hilly lot and I have this structure going into the terrain. So what I'm basically going to do in this video is show you how to do this, and it's actually pretty simple. So let's get right into it. Okay, so now that we have this just the lot here, you can see what you're going to need is a very hilly lot, something where you can actually, build into the terrain. And all you need to do really is just get out your foundation tool, and we're going to pick a spot here. You don't want to have the hill be taller than like one section of wall, so we're going to go about like halfway up here, I would say. Yeah, this is probably fine. And build, you're going to build into the hill is what you need to do. So let's just do this here. We'll go 9 by 5. I'm also going to kind of make this look a little bit more interesting. And of course you can always kind of mold the terrain to what you need to happen. Actually, this should be okay. We can always also just raise it up. So yeah, this is fine. So now once you build your foundation in, you're just going to get out your wall tool and you're just going to build just a simple wall around it. So just like that, essentially. And next we're going to turn on constraint floor elevation. So you're going to hold down Control, Shift, and C and type in constrain floor elevation false and hit enter. So now we're going to go to the terrain tools here, and we're going to go to the level terrain tool. And as you can see here, the height of this terrain is not above the height of this wall, and that's very important because you can't really put terrain on top of a wall, so you have to make sure that it's not taller than the wall. So let's just grab this point here, and we're just going to kind of drag it up to the edge, just up to the edge, not more than that. And we can go like to this height here and just drag this over. Essentially, that's a bit much. You have to just see how it looks and kind of get a feel for it. And then we'll smooth this out later. So I'm going to come over here to the back and just drag this across and drag this across. All right, so now we have this kind of thing happening. And what we're going to do next is get out this smooth terrain tool, because you kind of want to smooth this out before you begin messing around with the structure at all. So we can just start smoothing, and you kind of don't want to smooth up here against the wall, because then it's going to start bending the terrain in. So if I start doing that, you'll see what happens. It'll start like having the having the terrain kind of like bend inward like that, which doesn't look so good. So we're not going to do that. What we want to do is keep away from that edge as much as we can. So of course you're going to need to, that was a bit much. Of course you're going to need to a little bit, so it might help to get the small tool out, but even so you can see it's trying to do that, so you kind of want to minimize the amount of that happening. And we'll just smooth around here, and this side needs some smoothing. So essentially just going to smooth out the terrain. Again, I'm trying to avoid over smoothing this area here. And now that we've done that, we can go to the level terrain tool and go down to this level here. So we're looking inside the house. And if you hit the G on your keyboard, you'll bring up the grid. And you're going to want to make sure that everything in the house is flat except for just one block from the edge. So as you can see here, this corner isn't quite flat. We can just flatten that out. And just ensure that everything here is flat except for just this like one block edge where the terrain is kind of like that. And now we're going to go up a level here. So we're at the top, and if you were smoothing out that or leveling out that bottom, you'll have to switch out of the level terrain tool and back into it to be able to manipulate this level. So now we're just going to flatten this out, so we can just drag across, and there you go. Oh, it's a hole. That's not so great. Not exactly sure why there's a hole inside, but usually that's fixable with some floor tiles. Yeah, there you go. So you can just, if you want to get this edge back here, you can always use floor tiles to kind of fill stuff in, and you can turn off the grid tool at this point by hitting G again. And as you can see here, we're pretty much already there. And what we're going to want to do now is just use the wall tool here and just kind of like build a wall around that edge. So this slanted area is just not in the room. So now this is your usable space inside the structure, is this here. And then this is just going to be space you're not really going to be able to use because it's up against the edge there. Let me just turn off the roof real quick so we can kind of see what's going on here. So as you can see, the terrain kind of comes up to the back and then smoothly heads down the side. And essentially what's happening is the foundation is just going up here. So the foundation is always up against the edge of the terrain. So yeah, it's pretty much as easy as that. And I mean, of course, if you want, you can build up higher as well. You can build up more levels if you want. It's all pretty simple. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all there is to it. And we can get some flooring. And look at that. So we have this house or this structure of some sort that's like really high off the terrain at this point and then like embedded in the terrain at this point. So it looks pretty interesting. Now, there's one more thing that I'd like to cover before we finish up here. So if you go into wall coverings, and as you can see, these bricks are pretty distorted here on the part of the wall that transitions between this part here and this part up here. So if you get out like siding or like the brick that we have, so if I just get out some siding here, you're going to see it's not going to look so great. So if I like cover this part of the building here with the siding, you'll see it looks a bit questionable. So any kind of patterned or textured wall coverings that are horizontal are going to do this. So that's why the brick and the siding do that. But if you get like this ugly wood paneling, but of course you can change the color of it, you'll see it doesn't show that out. It doesn't show that at all. So any kind of vertical sort of thing works pretty well. And of course you can also recolor this however you want. So like if I do this here, make it like I don't know, a white color, that looks a lot better than the wood. But so that way you can kind of hide the fact that it's doing that. And of course, any sort of just solid color, so like what you saw at the beginning of the video, what I had was also just a solid color. So that works as well to kind of hide it. And again, it's also happening over here too. So, I mean, the lighting is still going to be a little weird, but it's kind of just the way that The Sims 3 does it. But essentially that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much how you do it. I might just like quickly detail this structure a little bit so you can kind of get an idea of how it looks on a finished house, but essentially that's all there is to doing this. Alright, so as you can see, I just quickly added some detail to this structure just so you can kind of see how you can deal with some of the terrain differences that crop up when you're building on a lot like this or building a house into the terrain like this. So one thing that I did here I can just show you is that I like put one entrance here at this level, but then the other entrance up here at this level, but yet they both come down to the terrain, which I think is always kind of an interesting way of doing things. So like the back door's on the second floor, but the front door's on the first floor. So you can do things like that. And also, instead of putting like a giant foundation block here where I have this huge like height difference, I use these columns and I kind of place them in using move objects, which is another cheat. So there's ways of dealing with the terrain and kind of like integrating a house into the terrain in a way that looks pretty cool. So anyway, I hope that this video was helpful and that now you can start building houses into the terrain in kind of more interesting ways. And of course, it's not really that difficult just as long as you use constrained floor elevation. Now, one thing you're going to want to do after you're finished with the terrain completely is go back into the cheat window using Control Shift and C and typing in constrained floor elevation true. So that way now you're not going to like, so if I like start trying to do things, oh, whoops, well, that does do things. But like if I try to do things here, it's not going to let me mess up the terrain, where the foundation is like that. So, essentially you're kind of protecting yourself there. Also, now it just glitched out the color. That's kind of weird. Okay. Anyway, you're going to want to do that. And another handy tip is if you do Control Shift C into the cheat window and press the up arrow, it'll bring back the last thing you typed in. So that makes it pretty easy to change things from true to false or on to off and false to true, etc. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed and this was helpful. And I hope to see you next time. Bye, everyone.